Welcome to Future Jobs. My name is Alexander Richter. We are back our weekly stream. So this is a topic I think a lot of people generally are interested going into the new year 2026 is like what is the future in visual effects, animation and games and visualization in general. I think that is something we would like to talk to you about. There's a bunch of stuff we want to look into today is different jobs that we want to look into. We have things from VR, game engine, machine learning, procedural, AR artist, technical director, Python coding. So all this kind of stuff that we believe are interesting and maybe even more. So if you have some suggestions live now or later in the comments, let us know what you believe are interesting job positions or elements. And then we also have a fail of the week with Salesforce, which let 4,000 people go, and then half a year later decided, oops, that was a mistake, because they thought AI could replace these people. So that will be also something we will address when it comes to future jobs. So basically, that is something we want for today. And I'm not alone today. I will be joined by Alex, the co-founder from Static VFX, and Bela Bayer, who is the editor-in-chief at Digital Production. So they will be part of this conversation, help me a little bit through the topics and give their opinion and insights into that one. And that is what we have for today. Let's dive into the intro and then let's go into future jobs. Welcome to my channel. Roll the intro. Hello, my friend. My name is Alexander Richter. I'm a technical director for visual effects, animation, and games, who was fortunate enough to work on projects like Avatar 2, Monsters at Work, and the Amazing World of Gumball at world-renowned companies like Weta Digital, Framestore, and Mackevision. Hey, before we dive into our live stream today, did you know that only 28% are subscribed to this channel? We're doing this live stream every Thursday at 1 p.m. UTC, so subscribe to get notified, and let's dive into our stream today. Okay, we are back. Hello, Alex, and hello, Bella. Welcome.
Hi there.
Hi, nice to have you. Nice to be here, actually, and really excited for the topic. Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying this out currently. There's a bunch of things we need to figure out. So hopefully this works. If you guys listening currently live, let us know if there's any issues regarding audio, video, or whatever. But this looks like fine so far. So before we start, Alex, how about you start a little bit about yourself a little bit, and also maybe what are the things that you are interested when it comes to future jobs, specifically from your current role?
So thank you, first of all, for the opportunity, Alexander. Really appreciate it. I'm Alin Dumitru. I am co-founder of VFX supervisor at Static VFX Studio. It's a small to mid studio from Bucharest, Romania. And we're working on all type of projects from feature film to commercial or special venue projects. And related to the topic, it's having in mind that the type of company we're at and the type of project we're developing and working and being engaged. The thing that interests me the most about the topic is what actually defines being an artist, because there are so many implications, and how the tech has changed in the past couple of years, and how this impact also economically but also creatively. And my thoughts are somewhere in the field of being a hybrid, having hybrid skills and being more towards being a generalist. Because one thing that really stuck with me when people are talking about artists or AI or coding or all of this is we seem to have a perception that coding or technical skills are at one end and creative skills are at the other end. So you're either a technical person or like a creative person, when I see it more of combined things, so they're not like polar parts. And yeah, this is one of the things that really interests me and can be related to all of the topics. And yeah, thank you.
Awesome. By the way, you're either Alan or Alex? What's your
Yeah, Alan is
Okay.
my I mean both names, but Alan is yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay, then let's stick to Alan. Cool, thank you. Bela, how about you?
So my name is Bela Bayer. I'm the editor of Digital Production Magazine. Been doing that for more than 15 years by now. And yes, I feel old every time I say that. And yeah, I've been watching the industry from the sidelines for quite some time now. And what I find interesting about this whole thing that we're seeing now, all the different interactions between the AI development and the artist side and the technical side, is that it's basically a couple of crises going into the whole thing at once. So you have new technologies, you have a financial incentive to change old structures or working structures, and at the same time we have a shift in working the perception what the job of a VFX artist at the same time actually is. So it's a shift coming through the a crucible, let's call it that, going through a lot of changes in a very short time under even more pressure than before. Unlike, for example, the rush to 4K or HFR or HDR stuff, which was gradual because this was development and then we'll see. Now it's all coming into one big heap, and therefore it's quite relaxed, and everybody can take their time and think about what would be the best way to do this. Not so, yeah.
Okay, yeah, like one of the reasons that I also wanted you both is like I think we cover different aspects. Bela, you are more on the on the publishing side. You kind of also more on the software side, plugin side, stuff, interview side. Kind of like the making of side. Alan, you are more into the business side, kind of practical side, where I am coming more from the technical Python coding, technical director, problem solving, workflow side. So I think that could be an interesting combination of different perspective. Some of it closer to the actual day to day, some of it a little bit more from the broader perspective, and that's why I wanted to see what we get today. And I found it really interesting to bring in a few of the TD meetups that we have, because I believe we basically covered a lot of very interesting job titles for the future, actually in past TD meetups. And one of them is virtual reality. Personally, I've always find virtual reality slightly stereoscopic kind of feeling, not only because it has stereoscopy, but like the same kind of gimmick feature that stereoscopy had in the cinemas. It was this like hype that died down. Nowadays, I would say VR is not a big thing anymore at this particular moment. I felt like the hype is, for at least for now, is a little bit died down. They came glasses here, glasses there, but they're not really there. But we had this really amazing episode with Dan Frank, where he basically showed us. Let me just bring it up in the background, where he showed us actually how you can do something like this for visualization, for previs, for layouting, and pretty quickly. And so basically, that would be a really cool way to create a scene in VR and communicate with the modeling department, the shading department, the animator stuff 10 times faster than a 2D storyboard, for example. So I think that was like something where I was like super impressed by the idea of creating something like this using VR. So VR as a professional tool, less as a consumer tool, more as a, hey, let me create a 3D storyboard using VR. Let me show the client our work in VR so they can understand better than 2D unfinished rendering image or something like that. So that are kind of interesting things that I saw so far. What do you guys think of like VR in general, or maybe also exposure yourself?
So I'll start exposing myself.
Exposure to VR, not your.
Yes, I know. So VR is, in principle, a very interesting tool, but it suffers a couple of problems. I've been seeing this for a long time with LED caves and stuff like that. One thing that I like about it, that it's currently a blank slate. You can do there whatever you want, and the tools are getting to a level that is usable-ish. But on the other hand, you always have these little silos of different technologies, different headsets, and so forth and so forth. So this is this feels a bit like game engines or game consoles. So I'm not sure that this is ready to explode yet. And I think for the foreseeable future, this will be a niche product in the terms of previous of animation of creative communication. So I'm going to show you this stuff in VR. Might work well in one studio that has one headset, one server environment, and stuff like that. But I don't see the typical producer understanding from another company. Oh no, you have to have this headset and this setup and stuff like that. The amazing thing about 2D storyboards is that you can show them anywhere, and this is their prime feature. I don't think VR is there yet. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in 5 years we will have a standard that's working over all the headsets, and then maybe, but
Yeah.
not yet. Not yet.
I think
It's gonna
what
take some time.
I liked about this specific video, I'm not sure if you saw it, Bela, but this presentation were mostly focused as VR, as obviously as a final like as a final movie, you can make it obviously, but actually what he was focusing on is VR as a tool to communicate in production, meaning all the people who are looking at it have a mind for this thing. It's not like, you know, they have a certain abstraction going on, but it's less abstract. And he was able to make storyboards 10 times faster that are more clearer at the same time for like the production team. And I think that was an interesting thing. I'm not saying this is maybe feasible, but I think this could be that's why I'm bringing it up. It could be feasible. Yeah. So I see this actually at the moment more interesting for a production than for a final, you know, Apple glasses, Valve, whatever kind of video game stuff.
And I see the problem that within the production, this is a complete new technical ecosystem you have to build.
Absolutely.
And when you talk to the production company and the movie production company and this and this and this and this, all the other departments and companies involved, this is going to get difficult quite quickly.
Alan,
If that is solved, then
yeah, it's the lag is a little bit there. What did want to interrupt you, Bela?
No, please finish your idea, Bela.
No. The idea is already finished. When the different departments come together, then this is going to gain traction. But until time that happens, rather not. Over to you.
I kind of agree with Bela, especially on the niche part. It is, especially if you remember when VR first came along, you know, we were all amazed by how it was looking, and you know, the potential, or people could see potential in it. But as time started to, you know, pass by, things faded out a bit. This allowed, I mean, I'm glad things didn't die at a point and people still started to develop. Nowadays, I start to see more, you know, VR or immersive experience occurring. So there's more demand for these type of events. We recently been involved in this kind of large format museum experience where we had to, you know, have different walls, huge LED walls and projectors, and Obviously, that's a live experience, but during the production, we had to envision ourselves in that space. So we use a VR headset just to preview how things will look like in the real thing. So that was very, very useful because it gave us the insight of the actual viewer. But in terms of I don't know, soul experience, I think that's the VR's huge drawback. It's mostly, at least now, is mostly like a soul experience. You know, you are you with a headset, and is everyone having the headset? It's a bit of a, I don't know, seems a bit one-sided in terms of experience, at least now.
Yep.
The tools are getting there. I'm sure you can find a lot of projects which can work tremendously, whether they're in early production, storyboarding, or testing things which you couldn't imagine. I can see it very well as an educational tool or as an entertainment experience, but the being alone in the experience, that's the one thing that I still feel it's a drawback for it. For certainly things will develop more. That's why sometimes people associate VR with AR, and I feel they're not so far from each other. And as time develops, I'm sure there will be more experiences for this. They're very niched. I don't see it in a cinema way. I see it more in a entertainment way, educational purposes, those kind of immersive experience for now, or as a tool, just like you had the demo with the storyboarding, or the way we use it for our project, where it really helped us as a tool to envision, but it was not like the main thing. The VR was not the main thing,
Yeah.
So that's how I'm seeing things for now.
Yeah, I would definitely like. I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of VR in general. I always find it like gadgy. Always find it a little bit. The hype train that was come and gone basically. So I never liked it too much. But again, everyone who didn't already watch this episode, how VR supercharged animation previous, highly recommend. Dan is a big fan of VR. He wants to bring it as an artist. And I think since we're talking about future jobs, this is not a job that millions of people are needed for. But I think this is a potential job that exists that most people are not aware of. So I think storyboard, previs, and background effects stuff, like for example, if you work on a toon animation 3D film, you make these clouds. He then is able to make these clouds 10 times faster in VR than in any other software, in any whatever. He's able to do this kind of visualization 10 times faster than in 2D. He is a 2D storyboard artist, but he can do it actually much faster in 3D in VR. So I think as a future job, there is this very small, at this particular moment, there's a very small portion that could go into this particular direction of VR for professional work, particularly storyboarding, visualizations, background, some level of modeling, basically, so, sculpting and painting stuff. Very specific, not for every project, obviously. But I think there is a small potential here. So everyone who is in this space of storyboarding, 3D modeling, whatever, at least I would definitely consider this medium as a potential professional work, basically. Again, I agree. I don't see this medium for the next 5 to 10 years or even longer as a consumer product, because they tried, it always failed every year again and again. So I don't see it as I also feel it's very inconvenient, basically. But for the person who has a VR headset and just basically does normal 3D work, and if they have a workflow that is actually faster than if they do it on a Maya software, basically, then this is I think a potential future kind of integration.
I mean, one thing we shouldn't forget when talking about VR or stereo before that, one of the problems those technologies have that I think it's about 40% of people do not have that stereo effect. So they just get headaches, and that's it. So there's 40% of people who will never use it that way. Another thing is, I was forced to watch too many VR demonstrations, and one of the things I have never seen was a even halfway convincing technology to work together on the same thing. So I don't know if there's something out there by now, some USD based, everybody in one space technology, but without that, the communication part of the development process of the pictures, of the storyboards, and so forth will get very difficult very quickly, because the charm of having a way to set it up quickly, to change quickly, means you always have to communicate in that. So either you have to render it out and basically print it and get some form of comments on it, and then you take it back, and you have this turnaround you've made that turnaround more difficult. Or you need a type of technology so that the other parts of the other departments can be involved in the setup, because you can design whatever you want. If the modeling or the shader guy says this is not going to work, or we don't have the budget for that, this is going to be difficult to have that immediate feedback between the different involved parties.
Yeah. So again, like,
Yeah, and
but my quick resume just about this one is that I see it as a specialized field for certain aspects of the industry. I don't see it as a consumer thing, and I don't see VR movies being the thing for the next whatever. But I see this as a, hey, I'm a modeler. Hey, I'm a visual effects storyboarder. Maybe VR could be. Let me try it out. Let me explore this. This is the only thing that I'm basically.
Yeah,
Ellen, you want to add
definitely.
something?
Yeah, I mean, totally agree that it's a good, and strongly encourage everyone to experiment, not just with VR, but with all technology. And I have a question, or at least a way to approach, and I find is relatable to all your topics for today. And I feel the question we should all have is the why. Why should you use certain technology? Because, we all know we should see if it works in supporting the story. Different technologies and different software or techniques can have different results, and if it helps it or not. We should not just, I feel that, not just use any of those just because it's a cool tech. Sure, we should do it for experimenting, get accustomed to it, knowing how to use it. But in the end, the decision is with every artist to see, okay, is this working properly? Is this a good experience for my project, my movie, my whatever you want to achieve? Just like Bella mentioned, there are people who are having headaches if they're using it for a long time. At the same time, I remember 5 years ago, 6 years ago, just before the pandemic, there was an FMX. I forgot a guy's name. It's a German artist. He had a booth there with an incredible VR experience. He had a headset. He also had a backpack with which vibrates.
Yeah.
And the entire story was incredible. And that was one of the best VR experiences I had. And I tried even more famous ones. So it worked. Was really, really nice. I recommend everyone to go there.
Yeah, again, like again, I'm not saying, and I think also Dan is also a little bit hesitant on that thing. He's not really saying VR is the moneymaker job at the moment, kind of. He is more saying
Yeah, sure.
VR is maybe an interesting production tool, meaning you can be a 3D artist, and maybe VR as a software, hardware could be an extension of that workflow. Basically, that is the way he's approaching it more. He does movies in VR, but I think what he also said was that, and I think that is an interesting way of seeing this relatively badly implemented tool more into the professional niches. used than actually in the broad market, you know, basically.
Totally
Yeah.
agree, and it's a good tool. It can be used to a lot of extent, and and I think also my point, and Bella's as well, probably is more in the point of it's interesting to use, but it's good to know where it can be used efficiently, right?
One thing just springs to mind while talking about VR. The FMX, I think I saw the demonstration there as well. Also, at FMX was the first time I had a VR headset on my head and experienced that for the first time. What we can look at with the overall technology of VR and headsets and stuff like that is the similarities and dissimilarities to the AI boom or the other pushes towards technologies that we're seeing right now. Because in the beginning, it was, oh, this is cool, this is working. I mean, the first VR-ish headset was done by Zeiss in 2010 or something like that, the Cinemizer. And Zeiss never really understood what they have with that tool. So they killed it. Then came the bubble and everybody was going all in. And Second Life style platforms, huge investment by both really intelligent people doing interesting things like that, and big investment companies said, oh, this is the trend we're going to have to jump onto. And then, so after 2 or 3 years where this was the big next thing, it quietly died down and is now 10 years after, basically, at a level where it's where 2 people or 3 people within the industry will say, 1 of 5 people will say, oh, this is something I want to use, and 2 people will say, I can imagine using that. Whereas just before the pandemic, it was something that 99 of 100 people said, yeah, I've tried it. No, I don't have the time for it, or don't have the patience for it, or no, I've just eaten dinner. I don't want to throw up.
But I mean, that's why I just describe it like stereoscopic. It was a trend. It never did really get into anywhere. I think Apple released recently a new VR headset, wasn't at Apple or something?
Yeah,
Like a
there's
few months
something.
ago, literally. And it seems to fail again, like second time or something, like kind of. So it doesn't catch on. But I mean, to be realistic, like I think we all can see a world of VR in the next 50 years or something like that. You know, like it's not something we cannot imagine that we will watch TV on a kind of glasses or whatever, you're not watching on a screen. I can see that kind of like future, like in the sci-fi movie, but it just doesn't catch on. It's just the technology is not there, the marketing is not there, the product is not there. Somewhere in the execution, it just doesn't work yet. And so I think that is the thing. But again, as a future job, there is something there, and I think if someone like Dan, if you find your niche with that technology, that doesn't have to be movie making. That can literally be being a better artist using VR, not for VR, but for art, for like 3D
Yeah.
normal 2D images at the end art. I think that is really interesting, basically. Okay,
Yeah, and
VR.
exactly.
Let's kill the topic as it died also 6 years ago.
Finally.
Let's move on. Don't want to stay on that one. I don't think it's the strongest. Actually, I wanted to start with it because I thought it will be a very light topic, but it seems to be everyone has still a lot of memories about it. So
Yeah, I do remember throwing up at IBC after a VR demonstration. So see, these are
okay.
not
Oh,
good memories.
no. Luckily,
We
I
have
barely
strong
had any
opinions and
exposure
memories.
to it. But we did a 360 VR movie before, and I did the experience where they did after Fukushima, they did like a 360 walk through the city. And then you can kind of like, like documentary style. It was interesting. So again, I think VR is much stronger for a professional environment, even like planning your factory kind of environment, than it is in a household kind of thing at the moment. I think that is just not where this is going. Okay, Unreal, or basically game engines and procedural. Let's put them together here because we had this episode procedural content generation with Unreal. So what do you guys think about procedural and game engines, or particular Unreal, as a future job, future opportunities, things like that?
Do you want to start?
Thank you. So, big fan of Unreal, big fan of procedural content generation, because it allows you to be flexible, do a lot of variation, do environments, and at the same time, you can always stop the generation and customize wherever you feel like. I think there's a huge market for this. And the real-time industry in general, I find it to be one of the top factors for next couple of years. And even today, I feel there's a good demand, because it can be used in a wide series of projects. So not just from storyboarding and previs, but also to final projects, special venue projects, immersive experience, all of that. So yeah, I'm all up for it. I think it's a good potential there, and the knowledge is transferable. It's not something you have to learn from scratch necessarily if you're already working in any 3D software. There's just a learning curve clearly, but there's a lot of common knowledge which you can transfer, and it's highly flexible. Yeah.
Yeah, with that, I do agree. It is one of the most powerful technologies out there, which is quite underestimated, because so when we talk animation movies or something like that, you are still very much able to influence every frame, every pixel, but you can get to a result or a world in which the story happens quite fast. One other thing that I think is extremely interesting is when we go to the environmental stuff, architecture for games, for movies, for stuff like that. So, for example, if you look at tools like City Engine or something like that, where you can have real world data plus your procedurally generated cities, houses, streets, whatever, bringing that together. This is something I think that will get you very quickly close to the final frame. So this is quite complicated. It's not something you learn in an afternoon, but it's also not going to be a whole job for a person just to procedurally generated environments. There might be specialists out there who do just that, yes, but the potential to, for example, do all the scouting work for your environments, for when we're talking to looking to game engines, when you can just expand the world hugely, and if you do it better than what's called No Man's Sky or something, the game where everything was generated. Yeah, this was a very interesting study. It did not. I'm not sure if it worked as a game. I only spent a couple of hours in it. But this potential to have rules for your world and have the world extend, and with a bit of random stuff in there, this is something that I find highly interesting. Also, the idea of the procedural generation of assets is something that gives you a very, very easy way to add details and to make it possible for smaller teams to have bigger environments, to have a world in which to see their assets, because it's always better to see let's say you're a character artist. Do I have the character on the turntable, which is a working view, or do I have the character in a world that it will inhabit, for example? All of these things are, I think, quite helpful for the creative part, and they are relatively easy to learn for technical artists.
Yeah, I think that,
So,
the concept is very clear. That it is very much procedural, and game engine is something that, for a future job, that would be something you should look into. Basically, I mean, you should find a job that is related to that. What I always discourage people to just randomly look into Unreal Engine, just like just because it's people tell me to do it. I think it should be always, there should be a goal with it. Like I want to use it for a certain aspect of my work, career, whatever. Because I talked to a bunch of people who were just like, oh, I just started to watch Unreal tutorials, and I'm like, okay, so how do you want to use them? I don't know. And I think that is dangerous, not only for like a waste of time, but also learning aspect is always horrible. If you have no goal, you basically don't really learn anything from anything. Bela, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, so one additional thing that just I experienced personally a couple of times. So procedurally generated content and assets are a wonderful way to test how quickly you can fill up your hard drive. And yes, I did that mistake a couple of times. And to add with learning Unreal, one of the problems is I don't think anybody understands the whole of Unreal anymore. This has become so incredibly big with stuff. Yesterday I was editing an article about Unreal we're gonna have soon, and the author was saying something. Yeah, I did this and this in Unreal. I said, "What? You do that in Marvel?" I said, "No, Unreal can do that as well." This tool set within that single software is going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger with every release, and you can have 10 people working in Unreal their whole professional life and never intersect at a point. If you look at the virtual production guys, they use it in a completely different way than the game development guys who use it in a completely different way. So if you want to learn Unreal, you need to have something you want to do with, because this is going to get you into the weeds extremely fast. Probably the fastest way to get lost in some software.
Also, another interesting part with Unreal and procedural content generation related to the topic of jobs is I find it to be multi-purpose. If you know how to, create environments or do PCGs and work with Unreal, this can go in different areas. You can work in, previs or feature film or series or gaming or, experiences. So the skill somehow, or the way of working with it can go towards different type of projects. So you're not stuck to, I'm just doing feature film or I'm just doing games, right? I imagine if you remember, guys, when Elder Scrolls Morrowind or Grand Theft Auto came, well, and you had the infinite maps, the feeling of freedom we had in our digital worlds. I feel this is what Unreal is doing now, but for story building purposes with these type of content, and you can use it however you want.
Yeah,
be careful because it can get complex quite easy. So,
but it doesn't have to be just Unreal. So with looking to future jobs in VFX, if your toolset has some way of procedurally working, you should have a look in that. So if you're having a lazy Sunday afternoon and don't know what lesson to learn in your software next, maybe go for the procedural stuff that's already in there and see if you can get your feet wet in it, basically.
Yeah, just do some rocks or whatever, you can have it in Blender or Houdini or a lot of other software to do that.
Basically it's the same thing. It's like advancing whatever you do currently with procedural, and I don't mean it just replace it or whatever. It's more like adding to it. So for example, if you're a modeler, there is certain models that you will do that could be better with procedural. You could be, for example, one of the cool things about modeling with procedural, to something, again, cannot do it for everything. You cannot procedural model the hero character, obviously. But let's say you have to generate a bunch of houses or whatever, or a bunch of stones or whatever, something more like generic. Which is really cool. What I loved about procedural is what you can do is you can procedural generate a bunch of stuff, and then you, the lead, the director, can pick the best one. So you don't have to, you procedure generate like 100 stones, 100 buildings, 100 whatever, that are relatively simple maybe, and then the director, the lead, can pick this is the one that I want, the rest just throw it away. So what you can do basically, procedure, you can iterate very fast. for example. That is one. Second, what you can do with procedural if you need performance. For example, typical shader that are procedural generated are better than shader with a texture map. They are better, easier calculated. They can be easier modified, and so on and so forth. So, learning procedural, for example, as a shading artist, actually improves performance. Learning procedural as a layout artist, same as we see here in the background, with instances, increases performance. But it also increases iterations, because suddenly you can change the whole city, the whole forest, the whole flyers on the floor in seconds, instead of like single thing. Obviously, you lose some level of control, because suddenly everything is just data. It's not like you can just pick anything and just move it to some degree generally. So what basically we're saying is procedural can add to your future-proofing whatever job you have. If you're a shading artist, you can create procedural shaders more in the future. If you're a modeling artist, you can create more procedural models. If you're a layer artist, procedural layout. Animators, procedural animations. Doesn't mean everything has to be procedural, doesn't mean anything, but it can add this extra layer of future-proofing whatever role you have with procedural as these extra modern performance, faster iteration step, basically.
And to add to that, understanding how to think procedurally, whatever the tool set, whatever your job is, will make you a better artist, because you understand how to break things down and which are the different parameters. It's not like in ZBrush, just I'm painting this, I don't know why it works, it looks pretty, but you learn to think about your art in a modular way, which is quite often very helpful.
Yeah. I'm less fond of Unreal, to be honest. I feel like Unreal has a little bit of these hype at the moment. As you guys said, I think Unreal becomes a Swiss Army knife at the moment, and it basically becomes a little bit uncontrollable. As you guys said, like for example, Unreal for projection is completely different workflow, completely different mindset than Unreal for video games. Unreal for Houdini basically is completely different than, like it's basically you have, let's say you have 10 different variation of Unreal in professional environments, and all 10 different are basically new ways of learning Unreal. And I think that is one problem that I have with it. It's like such a variety that sometimes is a little bit unpleasant, because basically you're like, okay, I basically have to relearn everything. But also one of the things that I find, including on this video with Paul, Unreal is relatively unstable from what I saw so far. I don't consider Unreal as reliable and constantly working as a lot of the tools that we are used to, which are sometimes also not stable. So I think that is the thing that I would also like warn about Unreal. Unreal is not the silver bullet of solving all your problems in the future in terms of, we can do everything faster. Unreal, even in this case, for example, this forest that we did here in the background, we had performance issues on that one, basically. So it was not a smooth experience, and it was not a big forest, So like the thing that I basically want to say is like Unreal is also relatively not always perfect, So just kind of like be aware that Unreal as a tool will not solve all your problems, and B, it's just if you learn Unreal, as we basically said before, make sure it has a goal. Like you there's something you want to use it specifically, versus let's just watch 50 hours Unreal introductions or whatever. Basically, I think that is just kind of a waste of time.
But do watch 50 hours of Unreal tutorials, whatever, instead of watching 50 hours of the news or bad stuff on the internet. So it's still not good. It will not help you, but it's better than a lot of other things. Maybe think of Unreal as a toolbox that is too large to use for any single person. You can use it, and it has some advantages if you are starting out. Basically, you have a giant tool set that is more or less free, except for time and energy and electricity and stuff like that. You can play around it, but don't expect any quick results. And with the instability,
I mean, there is this problem that USD had that Unreal now has a little bit. People literally reached out to me and they said, "Oh, we want to integrate Unreal into our workflow." A little bit like USD, where they were like, "Oh, USD is the hot shit. It will solve all my problems. So let's do USD in our next production," which oftentimes comes with the misunderstanding how painful it actually is to integrate something like this into your production from beginning to end. Like, you know, so I think that is something that is basically the warning that I'm saying to Unreal. It's like it will not solve your workflow issues just because now you have Unreal in your workflow, basically.
Yeah, and at the same time, I find this valid for any type of software, as long as your thinking is just a cool piece of tech, right? So if clearly each has its own ups and downs, some more than others, but using it wisely and asking the why you're using it, can really help. And there's a lot of there's something I see many artists, at least new starting artists, forget about, is optimizing. We had to deliver 2 years ago, I think, we finished a project where we had to deliver 90 minutes of content for Unreal, so an hour and a half, unique things. So obviously we ran into some issues because we had a lot of vegetation and some water and characters. But in the end, we learned to optimize a lot and made our own workflows, which really streamlined we couldn't deliver the project without Unreal. At the same time, there are projects where it's not suitable, right? You need Maya or Houdini or Nuke to deliver it. So yeah, it's picking your weapon kind of
It
thing.
reminds me a little bit like of the ILM project with what was it with the robot in this Star Wars project? There was this like one robot in particular who was like everything was rendered like offline, but there was this like one grayish robot who was like Unreal rendered. It was in Solo, I think. I think it was Solo. Let me check it out. Solo.
I
And
removed that movie
Hey,
from my memory.
yeah, I didn't watch it as well, but the thing is, what I remember is like Star Wars, obviously, Solo. Not so, it just had something else popping up in my search. Oh yeah, here, this one.
No memory at all.
So basically, as far as I remember, like if you remember something differently, let me know. As far as I remember, this particular robot in Solo was like rendered in Unreal, where like online, where the rest was mostly like typical old school workflow, VFX workflow, and so for me, I was like, okay, that sounds like if it's like a prototype testing phase, cool. But in terms of a production, this sounds like a nightmare of integrating one small element for a whole new workflow, kind of. So I think if it was proof of concept, I think that was probably a smart idea. If this was real, the decision to do this, it sounds like it probably costs more to just include Unreal for one robot than doing everything in Maya or whatever they were using. But that is something I remember. That was the story where this was used. The specific one robot was used to be an Unreal live rendering, basically. I was like, if that is your project, maybe too much. So yeah.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Star Wars, they have the mouse house behind them, so they have all the money to do all the R&D, if it works or not. And from our reaction to the movie, it's not like anybody's gonna really remember it what they tried.
But again, I mean, what happens with kind of this kind of stories is people pick it up and then they think, oh yeah, if ILM can do this robot part in Unreal and the rest normal, let's change our workflow to do spaceship in Unreal and the rest do in Maya, and then they find out very fast that this is basically a second project. in itself, basically. And that is what the comment about is, like, integrating something like Unreal is not trivial. Basically, it is a
It's not a silver
full-blown
bullet,
integration change.
and it's not a silver bullet that's going to solve all your problems. It's not going to be, oh, all the work is done in real time. No, Unreal might work in real time, but you still create in artist time.
Yeah. And some things are not great actually in Unreal because the software is not built for certain visualization aspects that are, maybe easier to see in Maya in a viewport, basically. Okay, let's move on. CopyCat, machine learning in Nuke. So one of the things that I believe, again, a little bit to the VR topic, I think one of the things that I believe in the future is more enhancement of what role are already existing for the near future. We cannot predict what happens in 50 years, but let's say like the next 5 to 10 years, I believe it's more realistic to say, hey, a compositor who uses machine learning to be a faster and more precise compositor is more realistic than a compositor and then just AI, that's it. I think that is less realistic than saying, hey, we have a compositor who use better tools to become better, faster, whatever. So I think that is, for me personally, the line that I see realistic. We will jump into AI itself also. But what do you think about like something like CopyCat, machine learning, maybe even?
Shall I start? So
Yep.
I'm a big fan of it because within this field of AI, this is one of the few things that's actually working, reasonably reliable. Because I never worked with CopyCat, but other machine learned enhanced denoisers, scalars, matte painting, rotos, all this stuff, all these highly repetitive, boring jobs are actually quite good done by machine learning, with the caveat if the artist can retouch every single frame when necessary. If this is working, this is actually a great help. On the flip side, we're going to have not many professional roto artists in 2030 or something like that. That's going to be a dying profession, because with each generation of the software, with each update of the machine learned model, this will get better and better and better. And when we're sitting in the elder people homes, yes, we had to do a roto by hand. This was, oh, you youngsters don't know how good you have it. Pretty much like other jobs that died out, which are highly repetitive. Nobody wants to do it. If you're out there and somebody says, go into roto, it's the future, go away, don't do that. And so, yeah, I think it's extremely interesting. But there's a small but in there that in recent times, this was one of the entry-level jobs. If you wanted to know if you want to work in that roto in the industry, you could do tracking, you could do roto, you could do mats and all this stuff. This was the below junior job. So to get an entry into the industry, this is going to be gone in 5 years or so. So this path to becoming an artist is closed.
Yeah. So on this topic, I agree with Bella, especially on the roto part. And in terms of, so when I was at DNEG, I found out that if you want to start, if you start as a runner and you want to become a comper, you have to go through, roto and match move and clean up through all of those steps before you become a comp artist. And at that point, I didn't understand why. And then I saw some of my colleagues who were, just doing cleanups, and they had all this amazing tips and tricks and matrices and tools and mixes of techniques they used, which were quite amazing. Some of them were at the borderline of mathematic and just calculating pixel values. And I was feeling at the time that these skills can really help you become a better comper, because you better understood what was happening behind the pixels on the screen. Just like Bella mentioned, this is disappearing now, and probably if you're starting as a comp artist, I encourage you to clearly not go into I want to become a roto artist, probably with how things are evolving. But it's good to know how to do a roto. Isn't good to know how to do a cleanup, because at some point you might need it, right? The tools are getting better at cleanup and rotoscoping, generating depth images, generating normal maps from the footage. I saw some tool which now kind of splits the image into diffuse, spec, all the passes, so you compose. Yeah, which is amazing. And there's another tool which we've been using for a while, and I cannot give a better shout, because they're amazing, from Pixelmania. Not a sponsor, but from Pixelmania, they do have a lot of upscalers and smart vectors and cleanup tools, and they've been around for a while, but they're not they don't usually appear, but they have a lot of machine learning tools way before this was popular. So we've been using their tools with great success for a long time, and these tools are there, will make your life easier. But I think the thing to remember, to my point, is, and I'm a comp artist as a background, this will not make you a better comp artist. So this will make you be faster. This will make you to save some time, or come up with some quick other solution. All these tools, which at the same time you have to keep track of all of them, which today you have this tool, and in a month you have a new tool, which might affect your workflow. But this will not make you a better comp artist. What makes you a better comp artist is, again, the basics, right? The building blocks of composition, studying photography, painting, color theory, all of these elements, which are still the basics like 20 or 30 years ago. The fact that technology evolved and we have much more access, the technology is much more accessible nowadays compared to 20, 30 years ago. And not just thinking of machine learning, but talking about real time and VR, all of these tools 20, 30 years ago, there were only some companies who had these technologies, right? Now you have them at your fingertips, but so does everyone else. So what makes you better is the building blocks of visual language. And they're good. You should dive into knowing these tools and using them, but don't neglect the art education, right? Just try to have the same amount of, the Taschen has a lot of this kind of books about paintings and artists and sculptures, and at least even a quarter of the time you spend learning machine learning tools, just spend some time reading or actually studying those paintings, because you'll get much more out of it. If you look at how they were doing, and this is my final point, how they were doing, in the 90s, compositing, and then you look at Jurassic Park and all the other elements, well, sound miniatures, but there are certain elements, and they still look good and photoreal because they understood the core principle, right? So they knew that the highlight there would just make the trick, right? And this is what we still have to keep in mind and learn.
So still the foundational knowledge, the institutional knowledge of how to build a picture is extremely relevant, and you're only going to get that knowledge if you stare at a couple of thousand frames. You don't get a 5-minute YouTube video to teach you all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think what Bella mentioned about entry jobs, I think that is definitely, there's a certain shift that will come, because yes, rotoscoping is a kind of a junior job. All these kind of stuff, tracking is a junior job. Usually you do a little bit compositing, but usually you do this kind of stuff mostly in the beginner phase. But at the same time, like in every industry and every movement, basically the something else will become a junior job then. And I would argue it will be more relevant because rotoscopy is absolutely, and tracking is absolutely not relevant to become a compositor in terms of what you do as a compositor. So this is something you just want to be done. You just want things to access a certain object, to color it, to whatever. You don't really care how it's done. You just want it to be correctly like sticked out, tracked, whatever. For me, it's I absolutely see what Alan also mentioned. There's a certain level of lost when we don't do tracking anymore. When the, like, let's say in 10 years, the compositor will not track at all, basically, besides pressing a button, and they will not rotoscope at all, besides pressing a button. There will be a slight loss of fundamental, like, something really understand about, because you didn't really do the the sketchy work, the boring work, whatever. So, but I also believe there is a level of you have to balance it out through some level of education. But I don't believe you need 1 or 2 years of rotoscoping or tracking to become a better compositor. I think that is such a waste of time. I think it's more important that you actually become a better understanding of an image, colors, theory, whatever, and obviously Nuke and how to execute, than rotoscoping for a year. I think it's a absolutely shitty job and absolutely can go to hell, basically. So I don't think there is a loss by losing tracking and rotoscoping, but there is maybe a loss by losing the hands-on part, where we are jumping too fast into shortcuts nowadays, like just press a button and then don't understand actually what it means. And so I think that the loss is mainly in the educational part, not really in the missing of the action. Like as for example, as someone who edits videos, I don't want to cut film at the moment. This would be a nightmare for me. It would take forever to cut a movie or to cut even a YouTube video if I would work with film, and I probably would never touch it. So having DaVinci Resolve at this moment just simplified my life millionfold. And but one thing I noticed, the difference to if I would cut film and I do DaVinci Resolve, I don't have the patience anymore. And sometimes what happens, me cutting now, and if I would cut 30, 40, 50 years ago, I think if I would cut 40, 50 years ago, I would think about it longer and harder, what I'm doing, versus now I'm just moving a few clips together. And I think the same applies for programming, the same applies for compositing, the same applies for everything. It's like the worst thing that we lose through speeding up certain aspects is that we become impatient and maybe less superficial in our results, because we stopped really diving into the depth of it, because we were forced through rotoscoping, before we were forced through snapping, because we were forced to waiting 30 minutes to render before we actually see the lighting. So the speed up of everything maybe removes sometimes the burden of thinking. And I think that is the biggest problem, I think. But I don't think anyone would cry when rotoscoping and tracking goes away as a concept, basicoping.
Nobody would be sad that life was so nice. I could spend Monday to Thursday rotoscoping, and on Friday I had an early weekend. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking back at the mental rate times when I waited 30 minutes before, like my lighting was shittily rendered before I can see even if it's okay, well, So I really enjoy the modern Arnolds and half-life rendering, even in Maya, basically.
But
so yeah, I think that is the comment. I think that is very important. So I think the comment as a future job is, if you become let's say here in this case compositor, I think something like CopyCat is potentially the future. It doesn't have to be CopyCat as a tool, it could be something else. But
Yeah.
it is something that speeds up certain aspects. This is not tracking, and it also has sharpening, certain color things, whatever. You can do a lot of things. It's using machine learning to speed up your process. That's what CopyCat stands here for. But at the same time, the comment that both said basically is also very, very important. Future jobs not only mean future technology, it also mean past understanding of principles. So it's a kind of like both. So it's basically getting rid of boring, slow stuff by using new technology, but at the same time preserving the principles and fundamentals that actually make a good picture, that actually make good colors, that actually make a good result, basically. And that is the two things that we should focus more than, whatever currently the trend is.
I think we, as an overall principle, and looking at the history of cinematography and visual effects, and relates to what Bella and you, Alex, mentioned about people who are now veterans in the VFX industry and getting stories from them and how things were done. I find a healthy thing to not rely on. I mean, we shouldn't just speed up the process at the cost of not understanding what's going on behind. That's the only thing, right? You don't have, as you mentioned, you don't have to. Obviously, you don't want to do tracking on Roto from Monday till Friday, but if you would do it once or twice to understand what's behind it, you wouldn't lose so much time, and you actually understand sort of things. What's happening with those shapes and with filtering and with all the other things and how you can use them and what happens when you invert them and all those kind of things. And I find this principle to extend to all other elements, including the AI, because it's hot topic now. So the process and what's happening behind, the understanding of what's happening behind shouldn't be the cost for just speeding up the process, because then I feel we lose things on the way, and then at the end we're just looking at a product and we're not happy with it, right?
Yeah. So in a lot of the other art forms, there is this artificial constraint. Oh, I'm only going to use this type of color or this type of material or something like that. And while I'm not commenting on the value of the art, the value of the learning experience, doing something constrained, no, I can't have another helper for this. I can't do another tool. This is going to teach you something, especially in the beginning, where it's no fun, but you will profit from the learning from actually working with the pixels, not just throwing the CopyCat node in there. You will need at some point an understanding what it does, because when it breaks, and we know this, all tools break without
Exactly.
all of them, then you need to know at which point it breaks so you can fix it. So
yeah. I think we have this new rule, since AI becomes an important part of education. We actually have this new rule in my Python courses now, in the beginner Python courses. No Googling until we arrive actually at the software. In this case, you learn Python for Maya. The first 5 weeks you should not Google. Because we just learned Python basics, and no AI for the whole masterclass, beginner masterclass. And there's a very simple reason for that. I don't want you to Google for the first 5 weeks because A, the information is included in what you need, so you don't need outside information. B, what the biggest danger of education is confidence and loss of confidence. So the moment you learn something new, the worst thing that can happen to you is the world shows you how shitty you are in whatever you're just currently learning. Meaning you start modeling and you see some random showreel of another modeler and you feel discouraged because you can never be as good as this guy or this girl. So learning a new skill a little bit in a shelter, in a bubble, a little bit university, so bubble itself, sometimes is very, very helpful, because in this bubble you could be in this town, you could be the best. Like, you know, if you compare yourself with like 10 other cohort joiners that learn Python, and you stick out, you help other people, blah, 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 suddenly you feel like the best, for at least for the next 5 weeks. You know, great. You help other people, you understand, you finish the assignments. Great. I think that's fantastic. And then when your skills arise, then you can start open the world. You know, the town gets bigger. You know, whatever. And then it's also like confidence, motivation can balance itself out. So that's the first thing. Second thing, AI is the same problem but also different. Sometimes AI can take away the understanding, the learning, the whatever, because you start to rely on it too heavily. We all know this even from Google. Sometimes we Google something and one day later we don't remember the answer. We executed it, what we Googled. But one day later, if someone asked us this question that we had one day before, even though we executed it, we don't remember exactly what we did because it was 1 year in, 1 year out in the moment, because we did it and we forgot it instantly, basically. Because there was no experience with this action. It was literally Google action, 5 minutes later, finished, move on. You know, I changed the variable. I clicked on the checkbox. It worked afterwards. And then someone asks you later, is like, I have no idea. Let me think about it. So the AI is the same problem, especially for learners, because if you use AI for learning, there is some aspect that is very positive about it, you know, summarizing, explaining, blah, blah, blah. But there's also this aspect of shortcuts. AI is too easily, you know, the drug to shortcutting everything. It's like, oh, just like, oh, I don't get it. Let me AI this thing. And it's too dangerous for beginners, because we are not able to control ourselves in this kind of case. So that's why one of the reasons I generally don't like AI for beginners, because it often takes away the thinking, the failing, the processing, and so on. And that is something that is not advisable in general. But on an advanced level, that is another discussion, basically. Bela.
So I want to say that's not something you've forgotten tomorrow. I'm currently doing the print CSS for the website. I forget this in the time it took me to copy paste that. So
yeah,
you're not learning anything. You're just trying. I want to throw this together. I don't know what I'm copying. Just go in there, go in there, go in there. And yeah, since the website currently doesn't have a print CSS, at least not a working one, this does not work. You're not going to learn anything. Now, doing that is fine for something you're never going to do again. And once the CSS file is in there, I'm not going to touch CSS happily for the rest of my life. I don't need that. I don't want that in my life. But you're not going to learn anything. And when this thing is done, this is not going to be something that I would put on a resume. Oh, I do CSS. No, I copy pasted stuff from the internet.
Yeah, I think learning and failure is a very close brothers, basically. There is no learning without failure, basically. And at the same time, one of the things that I also noticed when it comes to dealing with AI, and we all experienced that, where the AI was confidently giving us advice, and then we ended up spending an hour, 2 hours doing something that we could have done manually without AI. But like, you know, we kind of like hallucinated, turned around. And the funny thing is, I can tell you, if I, like, let's say code, let's say CSS or whatever, let's say you ask AI, I can promise you, funny thing, let's say you spend 2 hours, you would spend 2 hours manually, and you ended up spending 2 hours, you know, rotating until you get the same with AI. Okay, what I can tell you, you spend 2 hours, even if it was frustrating, I can promise you, you have a feeling of achievement. Even if it was frustrating, even if it was not fun to some degree, it's not so, it's not your favorite thing, there is a level of achievement because you found a solution. If you 2 hour this thing with AI, there is no achievement feeling oftentimes. Oftentimes it works, but it didn't feel like ownership or whatever. It basically feels like it could have, why it isn't done in 5 minutes, why it was so complicated, why it was so frustrating. So that is also a big problem of using AI when it doesn't work, is that even if we get to the result, oftentimes we don't feel the progress as much as if we get it ourselves, basically, or if we use AI only as a support versus a, like, you know, answer machine, basically. So, and especially for learning, I think it's a dangerous game, basically, at this moment particularly.
Yeah, you're not going to learn anything. You get a result without any steps in between. Yes. And this is not what learning is about.
Yeah, as we talked about this, let's dive quickly into coffee break for 30 seconds, and then let's dive into actually the AI topic that we just started. Welcome to our short mid-episode coffee break. If you love the content and would like to have a successful career in the film or games industry yourself, check out my website. There you can find helpful articles, masterclasses, and coaching opportunities that helped dozens of my students to bring their profession to the next level, and share the podcast with cool people you know. Let's continue with the episode. Okay, welcome back. So, guys, in the chat, if you have any comments, ideas, let us know. Happy to hear. Obviously, everyone who's watching it later, let us know in the comments. Happy to hear your opinion. So, as we talked, we were kind of stepping around AI a little bit. Let's dive into that topic. We also had a comment here from Emiran. AI looks like kill tones of designer jobs. PP look 3D images and turn into. Look 2D images and turn into 3D, similar PSDs to HTML. Those things will be gone. So yeah, this is the sentiment a little bit, that AI is like, just washes everything away. One of the things that I always find interesting, especially on LinkedIn, where people start to change their title to AI artist. This is a statement that I have. I want to hear your opinion about that as well. AI artists aren't professionals. Why? Because complexity is about entry. So everyone can type a prompt and make something. I can make a Star Wars image, video, whatever I do in a few lines. My hamster. I mean, if I train my hamster to type something, this is something he can generate. So this is not a skill. So this is not an artist. Basically, no one would pay for that in itself. So there was this famous McDonald's ad. If you didn't saw it, let's quickly watch this. And yeah, this is the thumbnail, so you can imagine. Not sure. It's the most terrible time of the... It's horrible music, so let me kill that. Did you guys saw this clip before, or this ad? Okay, then you're aware about it. So for everyone who didn't, so let's see if YouTube copyrights. This is like when the episode is released, suddenly like boom, bada boom. Let's see about it. But yeah, I've honestly absolutely don't like the clip. Like it looks exactly what AI looks like for me. And so my final statement, basically, before I want you to hear your opinion, is artists with AI are professional, because using AI to improve and speed up the art production process, that is what actually means. Basically, for example, we saw compositors with ComfyUI, which is machine learning, but and then compositors who use ComfyUI, for example, not just to generate the whole image, but for example, generate a backplate, generate a, you have a castle in the background, you generate it with ComfyUI, you have some background plates that you need, maybe not the main characters, but you basically use ComfyUI, you use AI, whatever it is, to speed up your process, create stock footage, basically, and so on and so forth, and just become more efficient, more productive, and so on. So that is the difference that I see at the moment. So people who prompt their way into art at this particular moment for the next few years, I don't see as artists or professionals in general. You can do it if you make something cool, if you enjoy it, and if someone pays you, cool. But like as a real professional at this particular moment, I see artists or technicians with AI as a supporter. That is what I see at this particular moment. So going on. So yeah, what do you guys think?
If you want to start, Bella, please.
I think there's one assumption in your statement. I'd agree with professionals working in VFX and game development, but one thing I've seen that people who are just prompting, they're doing the especially in topics like stock photography and stuff like that. This hasn't been an art for many years. This has just been a sales job, and there's a difference between stuff that sells and stuff that is art. And this shitty layouts for flyers nobody will ever look at. Yeah, so what? Prompt that. Nobody cares about that. And so that is one aspect that is adjacent to the professional getting paid for it. And if a person who knows what the client wants and the client is fine with that because they don't have any taste or budget, go for it, whatever.
I mean,
If
it's a little bit in context of future jobs. Like, basically, the question
Yeah.
is a little bit
I'm-
the question that I have
I'm-
for you, what you just started, basically, Bella, is because would you recommend this as a job? Like, even if you,
No, I'm coming to that point. I'm coming
Okay.
to that point. So if you want to be an artist in 5 years, 10 years, and still be an artist in 20 years, you're gonna have to be beyond the prompt. So basically, the difference will not be can you use this tool, because basically, yeah, everybody can do this. Even Alex's hamster. I didn't know you have a hamster, but okay. Sorry, I'm just the AI hamster.
by the way,
is
it's
my
Banksy. Yeah, no, like, so if you ever wondered who is this guy in UK who always produces, it's my hamster.
Okay.
Secret AI prompter.
Randomly typing.
What you're gonna need to be an artist in 2030, 2035 is to be able to prompt if it's applicable, and have all the other characteristics of a professional artist, which is yeah, you can prompt maybe a McDonald's thingy. If you're sitting at home and have a free ChatGPT account, what you will not be able to do is a production of this. You will you need all the other things that go into this: predictability, getting the results that the client actually wants, understanding what the client actually wants. And you might agree this is often the most difficult thing. Having the foundational knowledge to deliver the clip, to do all the things that are around it. So the prompting is just one part of being an artist. And if you think, oh, I'm just prompting, therefore I'm an artist, then yeah, I can walk, so I'm a marathon runner. No, it's not the same. It's definitely not the same.
I feel this is it's a very debated subject since AI started to being pushed more and more, and I feel there are a couple of things we should consider related to the future jobs. We shouldn't discuss now, because it's such a wide subject, the economics perspective and sustainability part of the AI, right? I mean, there's been articles. I mean, we should leave that aside, right? In terms of, do you guys remember when the digital cameras trend started, and everyone had Mike J photography, or those kind of things? That didn't make anyone, all those people, actual photographer. And then you start to question what makes yourself a photographer, or what makes you an artist. So again, we are going back to the backbone of what it means to be an artist. Besides the tool, which you need to master, because even if you were, Picasso or Michelangelo, or a DP, you still, the tool is part of you, right? You need to better understand how to paint, how to understand the camera settings. They're all part of your visual language. The tool is part of your visual language. If you're this relates a bit to what I said at the beginning, that we're not just technical or artistic, in terms of build, because If you can have amazing ideas in your head as a Houdini artist, but if you don't master the technical aspect of it, maybe a bit of coding helps, though you will not be able to successfully express yourself. So the tool somehow gives you freedom in expressing yourself. Now, I feel, and this somehow relates a bit to the article you showed at the very beginning, Alexander. There is this illusion of infinite optimization. The infinite optimization illusion, that we're trying to optimize and on an endless loop all the tasks. And I feel we should hold up a bit, because when it comes to AI and when it comes to being an artist, AI will not be able to tell you or the client what's good. You need to have that knowledge to say, okay, this is something good, or we need to stop here. It will just continually generate things. At the same time, I remember I learned ComfyUI from a course, and the entire structure there, where you start to, it's similar to Nuke to some degree, right? You have all the nodes. There's still a technical side to it, right? So you still have some level of control. The new artists, I feel they need to don't rely on AI to prompt for them, but they need to rely on tools in general. And if AI is a tool, or Nuke or Houdini or whatever, then you can use it. But it's the same thing as using it with the building block, because you can say you're an AI artist, but what makes you an artist in the first place, right? Where are your building blocks? What's you're trying to say? I mean, if AI is coming here to liberate us from creative freedom, which we have been enslaved for years, where are all the short films, the feature films, which it's promising to come along, right? So far, there's been a lot of things I've seen. I know that commercial you showed is not a good example. I've seen some good examples, and some good use cases for stylized commercials, and a mix of views of AI. And at the same time, there will always be people who find this a flashy new technology and try to say, yeah, this will change everything, because those are the people who actually don't understand, to my point of view, don't understand how visual effects is done, and don't understand the actual AI part. So if you're actually an artist, and let's say you're a comp artist, and you start to dive into the comfy, right, as we mentioned, or the machine learning, and you actually start to dive into, when you're seeing people say, yeah, this will just, VFX is over or whatever, I think you start to have a laugh. Because when you actually understand how the AI tools are working for you, and even, let's step aside the prompting, all the nodes you can do, and all the models and all the things you can do with ComfyUI, you still need to think about, right? And you still need the background, the artistic backbone, to be able to do something cohesive, right? And something good, not just a pretty picture, because art is not just a pretty picture. So when you have a look at all this picture, you'll say, okay, let's see how I can use it, because it will not go away, whether you like it or not. And let's, again, not discuss the copywriting and the training, because you can agree or disagree with that, but things are as they are. But if you start to actually say, okay, how can I use it? How can it help me? Because it will start helping other people as well, and everyone will start competing with that. Then maybe you'll get much more input from that, and maybe it will help you on the long run. I know it's been such a long presentation, but I had, there's so many layers and points to this, and it's a sensitive topic, but this is how I feel about it.
There's a comment here. If person don't use artist tools, don't mean the person is an artist. Every person has some artistic sense in it. With AI, competition just get crazy high. It destroys tools usability barrier. And so I think that is the thing at the end of the day. I'm not sure if it's a technical way of thinking. but I think it's a very typical way of thinking as a technical person. Is I don't really care what tool I use. I don't care about AI, not AI, Maya, Houdini, whatever. For me, it's always about the result. I'm using Maya lighting because I want a certain lighting, either for myself or someone hire me or whatever. I don't really care if it's Arnold, RenderMan, this, that, whatever, blah, 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 blah. If I can do it with AI, I don't care, like, honestly. There is obviously some kind of level of fun in the job that you do. If you just prompt it there, it could maybe lose some level of ownership, fun, processes a little bit less boring, whatever. Control, which is probably the biggest problem, especially when it comes to pure prompting compared to ComfyUI. That's also
Exactly.
the biggest difference between prompting and something like node-based ComfyUI. ComfyUI gives you the level of Nuke variation and slight level of professionalism, where something like Gemini, ChatGPT basically take away everything. You rely on pure text, which is faulty, as all communication is. So I think the biggest problem is that the perception is same as VR was, as we talked about via FMX 2019 and so on. Same thing. It's overhyped. It's overused to some degree. It's misused. We will come to the fail of the week where they hired people and then noticed it was a mistake. So basically, at the end of the day, I don't really have a problem with AI. I just have a problem with AI being shoved down the throats, and a lot of people start to think that they are artists, they are exceptional, and whatever, and then either they will fail or they will spam the world with their whatever creations. So it's not particularly a problem with AI itself. I think the problem is more of the mismarketing, misuse, mispromising, and sometimes to some degree a misshift of understanding of who you actually are as someone who is using a tool like that. Because if the barriers of entry are taking away, and for example, I know this as a musician. So the biggest problem with music nowadays is everyone thinks they can make music nowadays. And I don't mean before, I mean before AI. I mean with, all the tools that came out. Because nowadays you can click a few notes into your screen, you can import a few standard beats, and basically you have a song. Like, you can basically, without even AI, like literally just the presets and a few user interfaces, and then you can basically make a, hit song. The problem is the same thing. These people have no idea about music. They can create something that resembles music, but it is not music. It has a 4x4. It has a rise and fall, maybe. It has it has all the instruments that you use, but there is no understanding about certain aspects of music, certain aspects of production, certain aspects of it, and that is the big problem. And the division is, on one side, there is now people who don't need to learn music theory to make great music, which is great. But at the same time, you have people who suddenly think they can make rap songs and they can make pop songs because they can, press a few buttons and then render this track out, and that is blurring the line between quality. And again, music is a big example where quality nowadays is pretty shit of music, because there's too much stuff just generated basically before AI, and with AI even more. And so I think that is the biggest problem that I have with these kind of tools. I believe it's great to have something like this, ComfyUI, AI, Gemini, whatever, to make your flyer, to make your backplate, to support your whatever you want. If it's personal, cool. You make a flyer for your school in Gemini. Awesome. Yeah. You're not an expert. Who cares if it's perfect? You make a flyer for your birthday party. Who cares if it's like artistically whatever? Cool. You are a professional. You make a backroad, or you make your storyboard in a certain style already. You scribble something and it makes it in the final style that you want. Awesome. So that is the thing that I love about the new technology, machine learning, AI. What I don't love is these over-promising producers ripping out, destroying workflows, and deciding that now we don't need programmers, we don't need artists, we don't need blah, blah, blah. So that is the two sides that I don't like, where people believe they're artists and art is basically replaceable, and technology as well. And people misbelieve and think companies don't need workers don't need anyone anymore, because basically they need a producer and someone who can type a few prompts. And that is the shift that I dislike as well. That it is not as used as a tool, it is used as a replacement on a scale that is basically completely insane. That is the problem that I generally have with the whole topic.
And we need our artists and programmers and developers even more now. If you start to think about it, we have these new tools which can be used, so people who actually have experience and have the knowledge of in their field, they can really do amazing things, right? But you need to have the knowledge, you need to have the experience. If you just pick it up from early beginning, just like with the digital camera example, having a digital camera doesn't make you a photographer. Same here.
Yeah, and I think no one will, the same as with tracking and stuff like that, no one will cry about AI replacing something boring that you did before. Like, Bela just mentioned CSS or whatever. Like, no one is like, oh, I wish I could have done it myself. Like, no one is saying that, basically. Same thing for programming. Like, sometimes I don't know something unimportant I need to do, and I'm like, hopefully the AI can do the implementation for me. I don't have to find it myself, because I don't care. Honestly, it's just in the way of my progress, basically. So I think using AI as a supportive thing, and again, coming back to the compositing and rotoscoping, back to fundamentals, back to understanding. Like, even if you are becoming someone who uses AI heavily, you need to understand what you're doing. And even if you never learn the real software, whatever you want to call it, you will never be good. No one will like your stuff, generally speaking, if you don't have the fundamentals. Like, you make a 5-minute movie as a non-movie maker, 99.99999999999% it will be absolute garbage. It will maybe look interesting, like it will look like something, but most people will not like it because there is something you don't understand about the movie itself. So it's not about the tools or whatever. It's about the process, the understanding, and how you use the tools. That is basically the issue at the moment. And again, like the industry, like shifting too much in this area, I think that is a big problem also for safety and stuff. Bela.
Well, with the shift in the industry, this is something I have many opinions on. One thing is that this is not a shift by the artists. This is a shift by middle management and software developers. And sorry, no, not software developers, software salespersons. So these days, I do write a lot of news about all the different softwares out there. Everything from Autodesk to ZBrush, from Blackmagic to, I don't know, software company with a Y, but you get the idea. Get a wide view with that. And every tool has some fucking AI features in it. Completely useless. And they publish features that aren't working fully because, and I've been told this, which I shouldn't say the name, our investors say we have to have AI features in there. Nobody needs them. We have loads of other bugs and loads of other feature requests. No, you have to have AI. AI is the hard thing right now. You need this, and then it's building up, and everybody needs to have more AI. Oh, you can have all the different models in there, and you can have all the different blah 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 blah. So everybody's piling new feature into the tool set, which is getting drowned by stuff that doesn't really work. And then you get into the second level, that is, oh, I need this feature for my job. Yeah, you can do it with AI. No, it can't do it. Oh, you can do that part with another AI. So basically, oh, you can generate the picture. Can I get that in broadcast quality in this and this resolution with this and this color space? Nobody can use another AI tool to convert it into this. Why don't I do it right first time around?
Where you end up like with 20,000 AI just to get like one thing.
And all you needed was a title screen, damn it. These things is something I see extremely often. Another thing is people releasing the tools that are 50% there. So when when I'm looking at the tool, I think, oh, this sounds like an interesting and useful idea. This could do this or that or whatever. Let's say I can generate backplates for virtual production studios, something I did a couple of days ago. So basically, I want a test pattern in a certain resolution, and this should be one picture, a TIFF with this and this. So yeah, I can do that in Photoshop in 10 minutes. That's not going to look good, but no test pattern looks good. Or I can try to convince Sora and Gemini and so on to do that. This is completely useless. And I got the press releases that, oh no, now we can do specialized colors, and you can tell the thing that it has to have that color, and it can understand Pantone. No, it doesn't, and it doesn't work. And after 2 hours, it still doesn't work. These tools aren't ready for professional production. But one of the things that we as an industry have to understand, they aren't aimed at us. They are aimed at either investors or people who are still in a bad mood because their NFT didn't really sell. So this is the hype cycle that this time around hits the VFX industry in some cases. So one of the things that if I were starting out with this, yeah, you have to learn it. Shit. I'm sorry, younger people, you're not in the best, you're not entering the industry in the best time. But on the other hand, this is also a storm that will weather. And because what you guys previously said, you still have to have a human intention. The difference between art and a commercial product that has some similarity to art is intention. And if you don't have that intention, it's not going to be art. It's going to be stock photography or something like that. This stuff, this unintentional, I need some illustration for the flyer. This is done. This is not our topic anymore. And we've lost that to Gen AI. The important thing is that this intentionality is something you have to develop now as an artist, and the hill you have to climb has gotten steeper and steeper and steeper. While, and this is the evil part, while it seems that it's gotten easier, no, it hasn't gotten easier, because the competition is extreme, because every Tom, Dick, and Harry can generate 5-minute videos in a couple of seconds on their smartphone while they're driving the subway. So this intentional, oh, I have an idea and I produce a movie, let's say a 5-minute movie, I need to do this and this and this and this. Every step makes the movie, in this example, better, because you think about it and you work on it and you think again and then you work on it. This makes the product better. If you remove all the steps, the stuff is, you see the videos you see in your Facebook feed, the AI slop videos, which is marvelous. If I ever wanted to see a raccoon kung fu fighting a panda, all right, yeah, whatever. It's a nice idea. It's 5 seconds. Forget it. But it's not art. It's a joke, and it's meant as a joke. And this is clumped in together with all the other stuffs we're doing, with all the visible VFX, all the explosions and robots, and all the invisible stuff like compositing and lighting and shading and stuff like that. So currently, this is quite difficult, and there's a storm we have to weather until all the middle managements have another thing they can try to sell and are hyped about.
Yeah, Alan,
This was a long, rambly sentence.
Yeah. Yeah, Alan, before you answer, let me quickly read the comments because they're related to what I just said, so you can just jump off that. I feel like it's a little bit trolling now, the comments, but whatever. I enjoy free Sunu AI-generated music, or why am I need to pay? So that sector also cursed. Robots don't demand salary. That's why labor sector also cursed. Don't think so. If I watch 10,000 hours movie, I think I should know which good, which not. No need to be creator. Being observer is enough to be good. I mean, honestly, this sounds like trolling now, but so yeah. Okay,
All the
I
perfect
don't,
YouTube
I don't believe
subscribers.
this is honest, but whatever. Yeah. So if you enjoy it, if you think you are a creator, this is not a discussion to discourage anyone to go out there and make music and listen to AI music and whatever. Absolutely. The idea of this conversation before Alan gives his comment is basically, what is something you can do seriously in the future that has a career? That is the conversation here, not what people enjoy. If people enjoy AI music and AI movies, do you? If you enjoy making it, do you? The question is, will you ever be will the general person be successful making money with it? That is the question that we're talking about. So the main the conversation here is, what are jobs that you as a serious profession with serious opportunities can go into the future and be, win, as I think Bela and Alan just said. Basically, you have to win against the competition that can do the same thing. So what can you do that other people cannot do with their prompts, basically? And so that is basically more to the conversation than what people like or what people can theoretically do or whatever not do. It's more, what can you be paid for seriously and effectively in the future because you do something that not every hamster can just turn around and do themselves, basically. Alan.
I also think, when you're working on any type of project, creative project, whether it's a film, feature, or whatever, you still need, and all the creative persons involved and all the decision makers, and they still need the time to breathe and digest the versions, the script, the updates, the concepts, to see if they really mean something. Just like I mentioned, and like Bella pointed out as well, this infinite, we're gonna be faster and faster and faster and optimize everything, and it feels to a certain point an illusion. That's why I like to call it the infinite optimization illusion. At the same time, for the new generation, for the new artists, I don't think I have any, special advice, honestly. I mean, if you guys like to do modeling, just start learning modeling. If you like to do texturing, start learning texturing. I don't think there is a secret ingredient having in mind how the AI impacts things at the moment. The important thing I find is for you to get started and get in love with the craft and start learning it, and also try to be flexible and adapt along the way, because you can start as a texture or modeling artist and then discover you like to do more music videos, or you're more into compositing, or you're more into singing. I don't know, but as long as you have the pursuit of something which you really like, you will end up somewhere. Just like Alan Watts said, just do what you like, because at some point someone will find that useful. Obviously, the real economics of the world nowadays, with everything happening in the world, things are not certain, and nothing is certain, right? I remember in Romania in 80s, 90s, there were a lot of engineers and doctors, right? And everyone had to go to becoming an engineer and doctor, and then the next wave was for economics. So we kind of need a balance of all of these things. And as long as you're trying to, you're honest about yourself, and you really try to learn whatever skill you like doing, just try to pursue that and try to get better along the way. This means, learning new software, getting your hands dirty. If you're sculpting, try to get your hands dirty. Try to learn through experiences, even if it means, from sculpting with your own hands to, trying Comfy. I don't know. See what works for you and see how things are going, because we may be talking about this, and in 2-3 years things might change, or things might, we might come full circle to working with miniatures all over again. This is something I think beyond our control, and we can all get upset of that company doing this or that and what's happening or what technologies are coming along. But what can we do, right? We can still learn about all of the skills. We can start to practice them, and we can start to get good enough at them to actually have people look at, hey, I saw that guy posted on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, cool concept I really like and has a compelling story, because those will still win in the end, right? So I would advise in that direction. Just keep practicing, keep experimenting. There's nothing certain, and that's a good and a bad thing, right? I mean, we want, and I know we all want certainty, but at the same time, if everything we would be certain, no creative, turmoil will come out of it. No creativity is best when you have limitations. When you're free to do whatever you want, it's not something creative. When you set up limits, right, that's when your brain starts to think about workarounds and how you can send the actual message. So yeah, I don't think there's to my at least to my experience there, I don't think there's a secret sauce to all of this. And maybe we can accept how things are going and work our way and learn and keep developing. Just like Bella said, it's a tough time now for new people to start because it's confusing, right? Just like, and exactly as we discussed with Unreal, there are so many ways to approach this, and when you have so many options, you don't know which one you should take and which one is a certainty that will grant you a job. Nobody can grant you that, right? Nobody can say, oh, you should start going on VR or on Unreal or AI or whatever, and you'll have a job in 5 years. But at the same time, this is the interesting part, because you can start to get in the industry in one way and still, land on your feet and work your way around.
Exactly. So this is something that's more true now than it was ever before. So let's say you land a job at DNEG today for whatever reason. And then you decide, I don't like compositing, I want to go into modeling. This barrier to entry is quite easy. Let's say the 2000s, once you were on the track as a flame artist, this is where you stay. And that's it. Now you can switch. Now you're a virtual production guy with Unreal experience. Yeah, you can relatively easy try to make a switch to real-time game development or something like that. That's the good part. But you can get very far into the weeds. And
Yeah.
maybe so I wouldn't have a problem with going completely back to stop motion.
And
So
modeling,
no
and
more.
models back, photograph of models. I
Yeah,
think
never
what,
get a press release from Foundry again. That would be great.
yeah,
But
I
the
think
skills will still be the same.
kind of, yeah. So I think one of the things that a lot of people have actually problems also finding a future jobs, and that is something that I encounter when teaching. Even if I teach Python, but even if people decide to, even if they decide to become technical director, they always ask, like a lot of people ask, what is the best role? Like, what should I do? And I think the same problem comes back here at the same time. So there's two things that I always believe is true. No one ever learned Python because they like Python and coding. No one ever learned modeling, lighting, rigging, or photography, or whatever, because they love photography from the beginning. All of this is a tool for something inside that you want. No one learned guitar because they loved the guitar. It just doesn't exist. Somewhere on the way of learning guitar, they become love with the guitar, but no one ever learned guitar because the guitar is itself. They love music. They love a certain picture. They love a certain movie. They love a certain thing. So all of us start with some finished aspect. We watched a movie, we become interested in movies. We heard a song, we become interested in songs. We saw a painting, a picture, something, we become interested in that. And then we maybe are interested to recreate that. We love a YouTuber. I love the podcast by Matt Diavella, which had a great podcast. That is actually the start of the 21 Artist Show. I use it actually as my template from how I do the intro and whatever. So basically, that's how it is. I love that. I wanted to recreate it, and obviously, it was not so good. My camera was not good. My audio was not good. My host skills were not as good. But that's how I started. I was inspired, and then but what happened is I was not interested in editing. I was not interested in camera. I was not interested in audio. I was not interested in hosting. I was interested in talking, but I was not interested in all the skills that I need for the podcast. But I needed to do them to make the podcast. So I just kind of picked it up. And honestly, if there was an AI that generated me music, that generated me the intro, that generated me certain color grading or whatever, I would have used it if it would have done the job for me. So the things that I needed to learn was just in the way. So if there's some tool, AI, whatever, that can remove the thing that to get me to my result that I'm passionate about, I would use it, generally speaking. The only downside that can happen with these shortcuts, simple AI, whatever, is that maybe I jump too far forward and I'm not good enough. Like my podcast looks nice, but I'm still a shitty host and I have no idea of timing. That will not change. That still people will not watch it because it looks $1 million podcast and it feels $1 million podcast, but everything about it is there is not enough experience, not enough skill, not enough all the things that people want from the podcast, basically. And so that is what I believe is the first thing. No one becomes a modeler or whatever by Buddha. It's on the path of something else, and then you notice, hey, modeling is something I'm really interested in. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is how we get there is always judged by the tools that we use. So if something gets us to the result, we will use it. If it's not good enough, for example, using AI to generate certain images or emails even, if the email is not good enough, I will not use it. If the email is good enough that I want to reply to someone, then I will use it. It's very simple to me, at least. I judge the AI and machine learning and tools by its service. And if the service is not there, then I criticize them. Then I say, hey, like you can ask Gemini to write a reply email, but 99% it sounds like it has a stick in the ass. And oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Like no one writes like this, and especially not me. So I'm like useless. So basically, this is the two things that I just kind of encourage you to think about is like, what are you interested in? And while you perceive this goal, like making a movie, making music, whatever, you find sometimes things that you just love. Certain things about modeling, certain things about programming, certain things about organization that you enjoy. And then second, what are the tools that actually arrive you at a goal? And if it's not AI, then it's not AI. If it's AI, then it's AI. So at the end of the day, you just have to find the balance between what works and what is efficient and so on and so forth, basically. Let me quickly dive into the fail of the week. It started actually half a year ago. Salesforce. It's a big company that fired 4,000 people because I need less hats with AI, basically, which is half of the company. Basically, they recently a few days ago they rolled back. After claiming to redeploy 4,000 employees and automating their work with AI agents, Salesforce admit we were more confident about the value of AI models. So they basically regret it. This is a huge company. This is a stock. Actually, I owned the stock of Salesforce and I sold it. So basically, Salesforce is a huge deal. It's like a Microsoft level of something. It's not a small thing. And they noticed also, again, the misunderstanding. Even these huge companies who are in the midst of programming and understanding these things, even they don't understand sometimes what they're doing. But in this case, they at least understood that was maybe not the best choice at the end of the day. And that is what I think even these people, that's what they care about, is like, they use AI, they noticed AI didn't perform what they needed it to do, so they like, okay, we made a mistake. And that is what all these tools are about, modern tools, AI tools, and whatever. It's all about in service of the goal. And if the tool can deliver the goal, great. If it can't, shit. If it can partially, then you have to find somewhere ComfyUI mixed with Nuke or whatever, basically. So you have to find the middle ground, basically. Bella.
There's one thing with that. So we've seen the big layoffs at the big companies. Lots of them removed thousands and thousands of their employees. And I was at an event and met a person from a very large company, which shall be unnamed because they
Bella
have
is
a
always
legal
like the whole
department.
secrets always is here. Like, okay, so I
Yeah,
cannot name this company. I cannot name this company. You know, this also is cannot say the source of this one.
I once
Like a
worked White
journalistic
House.
stuff, like, you know, like, oh, like I know who killed Kennedy, kind of.
that was easy. Who killed Kennedy? Because no, the thing is, I said, well, so all these people were useless in the company. And I said, no, but it was easiest to fire them this way. So this is not, for example, I have never interacted with Salesforce in any way. But I can tell that a company of this size cannot just say, oh, we want to reduce our workforce. They have to give a reason because unions and employment laws and stuff like that. And so they had a couple of years where they thought, okay, we have a whole 3 or 4 layers in our organizations which are useless. But we are now in a position to see if we really need them. So throw them out, because these people, we can always hire them back or somebody younger and cheaper. So this is not really, we don't need the work anymore. We say we do it with AI. This makes our stockholders happy because we are so hip and so young and so blah, blah, blah. And we have an excuse to redo whole parts of our complete organization. So throw them out and we'll rehire them, because there's always people who want to work for Salesforce or Microsoft or LinkedIn or all the big companies throughout thousands and thousands of people because it was easier and they had the backing of the owners of the company, the stakeholders, the stockholders, and so forth, because, oh, you're doing things with AI and you're replacing that. This was, on the one hand, throwing out people who worked decades at the company, and you can't get rid of them that easy. If you say, we're dissolving the whole department because this will be replaced, you can throw out all of them with a fixed termination and be done with it and rehire. So it's not only that some of the jobs could have been done by AI easily, also it was an excuse to get rid of parts of their workforce and see if they really need them. Let's just throw them out and see if something breaks. And if it doesn't break, oh, we saved money. And if we do need them, yeah, we can either hire them again because they will be devastated and come back to their job, or we can get newer, cheaper people. And this worked for a lot of the companies.
Yeah, Salesforce lost like 33% in the last year in stock, which is a huge deal for an AI company, technology company. Like, you know, it's an important part of the industry in general. So yeah, they broke apart. Not only because of that, but multiple things, kind of.
Yeah, so. And but I do think that in some ways it is an excuse to reduce your workforce, and even if it doesn't work, well, let's see if it comes again. And
I mean,
this is just a stock.
There was this discussion of maybe people overhired during COVID, especially the big companies, like, you know, Microsoft and Facebook. They hired too many people, and now they have basically, you know, if one of you watched the TikTok Day of My Life at Facebook or whatever, and then it's just a compilation of free food and you know, cappuccinos and stuff like that for the whole day, basically. And then sometimes people calculate because they can see the timestamps, and then they calculate how many hours they actually worked. And it's like, you know, 2 hours work time, 3 hour lunch, and you know, 5 hour table tennis or something like that. It's like, yeah. No, but it's like, you know, it's obviously there's like multiple reasons for that. Sometimes it's literally, you know, management make a huge decision like this because they believe the hype. Sometimes it's AI actually makes things efficient. Sometimes AI exposes inefficiencies through better data handling and whatever, like better controlling and understanding of things. It is this like mixture of multiple facets depending on the company and situation. But in this case specifically, reducing half of I think it was 9,000 people in total, Salesforce, removing 4,000 of 9,000 people, and then 6 months later noticing it's maybe was a mistake. Sounds like kind of a fail of the week for me. Basically,
It's a fail, definitely.
Alan, what about
But
you?
it's a
What do you think?
It's a multiple fail.
Well, the story Bella mentioned about people using this and bigger companies using this, as a, how you want to say, marketing or legal excuse. I've heard that before, so it's not something uncommon. And at the same time, I feel this relates a lot to one of the things that we briefly touched about and said, okay, let's not discuss that. The economics perspective and stability part of the technology. I mean, it's to some degree, it's comparable to the blockchain. I mean, the blockchain as a technology is incredible, right? The way it's been thought through, and whoever the guy who came up with the idea, that's incredible. The fact that it was used to manipulate markets or make the NFTs, and which again could have a good use, the NFTs, especially for documents or legal documents, and have authenticity of certain thing, especially now with the AI and copyrights for artists, right? There could be some good use cases, but it did not in the end, right? So it all just flopped, and now the crypto market is not. It's more
Gambling.
It's not what the blockchain technology can actually do, right? In terms of potential and complexity and real.
The crypto market is pure scam. It's an absolute. It's like if you want to lose money, go into crypto market and you will 99.9% lose money.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if I would bought Bitcoin, a couple of years ago.
Of
even
course,
like
I mean
3 years
that is the thing. But if you take away
but
the biggest coins and you take the other millions of coins, then you go away from some level of stability, basically.
So probably what we can learn from these stories is that you cannot have compelling product or a stable environment without a solid background. Even here, whether we're talking about economics, whether we're talking about art, whether we're talking about however you want to categorize this, we cannot have anything without a solid background. Which, if you start to think about it, the same thing happened with the blockchain, with AI employees being fired, and then hey, we need you back, and all of those things. Because at the end, and this is one of the things I go back to quite a lot. It's related to the business side of things, right? Because whether we like it or not, things need to make money so we can keep things going. And there's one thing which I hate when people say, hey, it's just business, don't worry, it's just business, I have nothing personal, it's just business. I hate that saying, because you start doing businesses usually to solve a problem, right? So you start a business with people because you need partners, for people because you need to fix problems, and with people because you need team, right? So all the core ingredient around any business are people. So when you're treating things like this, it's somehow you're not serious about the business, or whether you don't understand it, or maybe you're not sincere, or I don't know exactly the reasons behind it. But what I can see for sure is no solid background, no good outcome. And you can look at businesses, look at startups. It can then their bubble or bursts is the same principle. There's no solid background. It's just an illusion. right?
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
is something I would also add to the final topic that I want to mention, because one of the things that people mention always is like, oh, the first one will fall is programming. Or why should I even learn programming and stuff like that? So that's the same thing. Like, I always say at this current level in the next few years, you always have to be the supervisor of your AI supporter. I think there is a smart level of having an AI supporting you in your coding situation. There is a certain, we did GitHub Copilot, which basically can generate you certain code, can code review stuff, can fix stuff, and so on and so forth. I think this is something at the moment a little bit wonky, and I would generally say under the right use, something like GitHub Copilot can give you like a 20% boost. Not great, but also 20% is 20%. It's not bad. But if you don't know what you're doing, it will go down 20% or 50% or whatever, because you basically constantly
CSS.
wondering what's going on, nothing is going on, the whole code base is broken, it works for now, but the next change will cascade into 5-day revision or something like that. And so this applies, basically the basic background applies for coding as well. The best coders who increase their productivity with AI, like GitHub Copilot, even ChatGPT, are the one who are the supervisor of these coding adventure. Meaning, I know what I'm doing, and I use AI as a supporter, someone who helps me, who advises me, who reviews my code, who gives me information. Basically, a Google 2.0, a Google that is like, go that more individual into the information, goes individual into directly your code, and so on. That is what the coder of the near future will look like. Basically, is coders AI enhanced. That is the coder of the future, of the current future, basically. That leads still to the thing of you need to be a good coder first, because you need to judge the AI of, is it good now or is it good in the long term? Because sometimes the code that it generates maybe works, but for the studio, for the project, could be a disaster in the next few iterations, weeks, add-ons, and so on, basically. And that is something you can only judge, and often the AI will not be able to judge lack of context and stuff like that. So that is something where I say, where I see, for example, AI in coding, I see it as a potential, I see it as an enhancement. I don't see it as a replacement at this moment. I see there's a lot of research actually done of AI destroying the code base of the world at the moment. They have the data of GitHub. They can actually look at GitHub and they see one of the simple way that they calculate why AI is bad for coding at the moment is the amount of iterations, meaning revisiting the code and recommenting the code and re-uploading the code, is higher than ever before. Meaning the amount of fixes on GitHub is higher than ever before in history of GitHub. And it comes from AI code that is fixed by humans, AI code that is fixed by AI itself later. So there is basically a degeneration of the code at the moment through AI use. And so I think that is the thing that is problematic, basically. But at the same time, a smart user, a smart programmer who uses AI is, I think, is the current future at the end of the day. Last thing I want to say, so if you guys interested, we are doing this coding thing, we're doing Python for Maya, VES Max, Houdini, Nuke, Blender, and Python Advanced, and even Python GitHub Copilot, as we just showed you. I still believe, and I want to hear your thoughts on coding in itself as a future job. I believe that coding is part of that. If you use something like CopyCat, I think having a technical mindset, technical understanding is helpful. If you use ComfyUI, technical background, technical understanding, even if you are an artist, is very helpful. And I think the gateway into a good technical understanding is something like Python, is something like coding, because coding is not only some process that you can write, it actually teaches you how to think in structures. It actually thinks about problem and solutions very easily. And so I think something like Python can really
anymore.
help you about that. Bela, you're still here.
Yeah.
I think we lost him. Alan, you can hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you again.
If you guys want to join, we also have a TD Academy Discord. This is the link. You can just join that one. And yeah, I would love to hear from you too. Final words. If you want to say something about programming in general, if you think this is something that is a thing for the future, or if you think it's still more for the technical sides of things, basically.
I don't think it's just for the technical side of things. And again, we're not just technical or artistic oriented. It's a mix of both. So any tool or new knowledge which can help you to express yourself is incredible. It can be coding, it can be a new software, it can be a new technique, it can be a hobby, but this can help you a lot. And especially in our field, in the VFX industry, whatever you're doing can you will get a definite upgrade on your skills, even if you have learned just the basics of coding. And then from then new ideas might start flowing, to what you can do and how you can approach certain tasks or shots or creative development, maybe even just for fun sometimes. So yeah, I'm all up for that. We're just a mix of those two. We're not just one or the other as
Alan,
artists.
if you would pick one job for yourself, or if you see someone you would love to hire in the future, what would be what would you say is the job title or the skill or whatever that you see for the next 5 to 10 years? Like something that someone can develop in the next few months to go into that direction. What would you say? And I will ask you the
Generalist?
same question, Bella.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
I would say generalist because even if you're not like top level, you can then get on a different department, or maybe you can move from department to department depending on the project. So it can be more fun, and at the same time, you can explore a different option. And as a generalist, I feel you can get a little bit of all the worlds and have a better overall picture. This doesn't mean that being an excellent comper or Houdini artist is not a valuable thing. It's just the way I see things. It's people with broader, seeing the wide picture of a project, not just your task, and seeing the entire project and the ramifications towards the client and how the project might perform and so forth, is incredibly valuable. That's one thing. And it's easier to help your colleagues because then it's not like, oh, I finish my texture or whatever, I just pass it over and I'm not interested anymore. So you kind of need to understand what's before and after you to be a better team player. And this is one of the things I in terms of skills. But the one thing we value the most at Static is the attitude. So skills can be learned, software can be learned, but the attitude towards the work and towards a colleague and towards the project is our number one priority. I mean, you can be the best artist, but if you're arrogant or you have this kind of no team vibe, you're not a good in a good. I mean, we're not your tribe, right? Yeah.
Okay. Bela, first thing, what do you think of coding as a future in terms of as a future itself, or as a skill as a future, and what would be your do you see as a role for the future if you can pick one?
So, coding is, in my opinion, again, opinions, we have many, but it is a incredible tool to learn how to think. And this is something that unites all creative industry. You have to think about what you're doing. And the better you are at doing that, this is the tool that might help you to really break down your tasks and to get to the point where you actually can tackle them and not just use a software to do anything. So if you want to do VFX, you should at least have some basic encoding, which means currently Python, and whatever your DCC of choice has, be it MaxScript or Maya embedded or whatever, you need to understand the language of the tools you're using. And jobs for the future, well, as a journalist and a one-man show, I'm not hiring. Sorry.
You're like, okay, the job for the future, journalist and visual effects. That's the.
No, that would be a lie. If you want to be hireable in the future, there's 3 things I can recommend. A, show what you've actually done. A showreel is not enough. You have to tell the people what you actually did there. 2, understand, and this is the same that Alex has been saying, movies and games and so forth. These are team sports. This is not a single person doing a thing. So you have to be able to work in a team. Don't be one of those people. Be somebody who actually gets along well with his colleagues. And the third thing is with the time we're in and all the shifts happening out there, you need to have a wide range of topics and skills available. So one of the things, for example, you are a excellent comper. You can do, you know everything you can do. And then your company decides, oh no, we're doing this or that or something. You have to be the kind of employee who says, oh, well, I'm not a professional at that, but I can get the first few steps there. You have to be the guy that knows how to Google, that has a basic understanding of all the things around you, so you can learn them. This is something I see quite often. Younger students and people just going into the industry, they know all about one thing. They have their silo of knowledge and no understanding what else is happening. So develop that understanding, and the earlier you have a overview of what's happening around you, not to the point where you can do your colleague's job, but you actually know what he's talking about, or she or it or them are talking about. The more you understand what else is around you, the better you be in the team and in the project, whatever you're working on. And it will be transferable to other projects, other companies, other industries, other genres, other departments. So it's not that you have to be able to do everything, but you should be able to talk to every one of your colleagues on a mid-level, mid-range level of competence, basically. Except the finance guys, nobody knows what they're talking about.
They're using AI.
They're using it. Yeah, like that's basically pure AI. There's no one there anymore. No, but I think one of the ways that you can approach it, if you are already a professional, I think the best way to approach like the next step is see if you can enhance whatever you do currently. We currently saw about different things. We looked at VR. That could be an interesting thing. We looked at CopyCat. We looked at ComfyUI. We looked at, there's yeah, generally AI, whatever. Look at whatever you do. Is there something that can speed up your process, can increase your quality, can increase your iteration, procedural, for example, increase your iteration speed, for example. So I think that is the first way of approaching it. If you already know something already, if you're professional in something, is there something that can future-proof it by adding something that will give you the extra speed, iteration, quality, and so on. The other thing that I personally believe that the jobs that I promote since a few years ago, and that's why I'm teaching Python, is I generally believe that everyone should become a technical artist, technical director. Not because there should not be artists. What I believe is that even the artist should be technical enough to understand if something is breaking, if something needs how to use a CopyCat correctly, because there's about certain aspects and understanding of the background processes and so on. So I don't say we don't need artists. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is even artists should be some level of technical understanding. So they're not just, pushing a few buttons, putting a slider to a certain number and, prompting something. No, they are artists. They understand what art is, but they also understand enough about the technologies to use them to their liking, to their thing. So if you use ComfyUI, you cannot just, decide what you want. You actually have to decide what is the seed, how much of this and how much of that, and you understand what it means. It's not just a number, it actually, you understand why you put some number. And so basically that is what I believe in the future, is that basically with the technology, future jobs are people who are artists or techno, but they always have an understanding how to deal with the technology, how to deal with problems. And I think that is the most future proven jobs. And I always recommend, if you want to go into this direction, besides everything that we talked about, is learn Python. Python not only is a skill as a, Python coding, but also a mind shift of problem solving. And I think that is a very, very future like supportive thing, even if the AI is there to code for you as well. The fundamentals of coding will teach you different things. It's not just coding, basically. Any final words from you guys before we wrap this up?
It's been a pleasure, and I feel we could keep this going on for hours because the topics are so. I mean, they're sensitive to some people, and at the same time pretty actual, and we're all confronting with the same thing. So, yeah, I felt we could go on for hours on this. Thank you so much for being here, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I can add to that. Thanks for having me, and it's been a pleasure talking with you guys. And well, see you next time.
Yeah, thank you both for giving your insights about that. Again, this was obviously, we didn't deeply researched and came out like swinging into all directions. The idea was more, showing certain aspects of things. And again, I think augmentation is the best way to describe the result a little bit. It's like if you do something, just augment it with something that is maybe more future that will help you. I think that is one way to do it. I don't think panic is a thing that should become an important thing. With panic, no decision that you make is usually good. But I don't think it's a smart way to just say, oh, AI is shit, or all these like is just a bubble, or oh, this like blah blah blah. I think the smart way is to try it out, to see where it lands for you. You try out ComfyUI, you try out CopyCat, you try whatever you think maybe is cool, whatever you think is maybe matching to you. You try it Unreal, and then you see maybe it doesn't land, and then you say, you know what? I tried it at this moment. ComfyUI doesn't deliver on what I have to do. Like I cannot use it professionally. So there's no purpose for me. Okay, fine. Come back in 1 or 2 years. Check it out again. See if it now delivers. And I think that is the best approach to future technology in general, is like, see it realistically, don't panic, but see if you can integrate it for your own benefits. And if you can, it only benefit you. If you can integrate ComfyUI into your workflow, it will only benefit you. There's no downside basically for you. If you can't, then just accept the fact that it's just not a good tool for whatever professional thing or whatever you do, basically, for now. And then in the future, maybe you find the solution there. But I think that is the best approach. It's like actually seeing what it actually does instead of just believing the hype or the trend or whatever is going on at the moment. Bela, thank you very much for being here. As always, we did all 21 Artist Show. If you want to watch it with Bela Bayer, we did about journalism and visual effects. And Alan, we did, VFX. What was the topic specifically? It was definitely about a trash fire. Like I remember there was like a burning trash fire or something like that. Visual effects. Wait a minute.
Honestly, I forgot about the title. I know.
Yeah, it was a TD meetup, so I have it. So
it was intense as well.
it was visual effects future. Oh yeah, I see trash fire. But later I used the Titanic. The Titanic.
I'm with the future hashtag.
Yes.
So
So
if
yeah, if you guys interested, check this out. If you're like, I think we're relatively positive in general about it, even though the image doesn't sound like it. basically. But yeah, overall. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for joining. Thank you everyone who was part of this live. And if you guys have additional comments, suggestions for future jobs, let us know in the comments down below. And yeah, we will see each other next week for our next stream, Thursday at 1 p.m. UTC.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.
Bye.
This website is here to share my experience, to take you along with me, and to give you an opportunity for a great career. Here you can find my blog with exciting articles about the industry, great masterclasses, and personal coaching that will bring you to the next level. My YouTube channel handles topics about a career in the film and games industry, being a technical director, and professional scripter. I'm also hosting the 21 Artist Show, which is a visual podcast that inspires creatives to make meaningful content to pursue their passions. Finally, subscribe to my newsletter to get industry insights and updates to new content. That's it from me. See you on the next video.